Hello mga ka-artist eye. We are here again on our next painting lesson for today. And our painting lesson will focus on how to paint trees. Okay, at my back is a oak tree. Sometimes it's called tibig in other parts of the Philippines. Its scientific name is Ficus variegata. Okay, I chose this tree because of its interesting trunk and branches, and this is located near my home in Candadang, Leyte. Our location is actually facing the east where the sun rises, so that we won't be painting against the light, and so that the background of our tree will properly accent its structure later on. So we will be painting on a stretched canvas 24 by 30 inches, and I will be using a limited acrylic paint palette. So in our painting lesson, you will see how a tree is to be constructed from its basic drawings, and how the sketch should be done, and the different stages in our painting. So painting a tree is a challenge since our elementary years, and of course there are so many ways of painting the tree so that we can lend certain creative and artistic elements on it, like texture, color mixing, and other elements that will make our tree painting look interesting. Come on mga ka-artist, let's begin. Okay, we are now here in our painting area in front of the tree, and with me, beside me, is a prepared canvas, and which I gessoed twice with an acrylic primer, and then also I prepared a charcoal pencil to sketch the tree. So a charcoal pencil is good for sketching detailed subjects because of its fine point. So we'll start now sketching our tree. We'll first determine the overall shape of the tree, the general shape, and the first thing that we should do when using this charcoal pencil is to make a line drawing of the basic structures, and then we'll fill in the other parts later on. After we have made our general structure of the tree, the next step is to draw our background. So we have now established our background vegetation. The next step, or the third step, is to assign the different shadows and shading on our tree to make it more solid before you apply the first layer of our paint. I'm now preparing my materials for the first layer of painting. So we'll be mixing a very thin layer of paint. So I have with me on my palette white, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow, brown, phthalo green, and bright yellow green. Okay, a fixative spray is used to protect our sketches from smudging. So this is a fixative spray which is actually not sponsoring this channel, but baka naman you'll be interested to sponsor my channel. So I have also an assortment of brushes, but I will be using hard bristle brushes for the background, and also a broad flat brush to hasten the painting of the background. So we'll first use a fixative spray before we'll apply our paint. So this is how we do it. Okay, so we'll just try to apply the fixative spray thinly, so about 8 inches away from you. So just a thin layer of spray, and you allow it to dry for a few seconds, just seconds. will dry easily because this is made of aerosol. Okay, here's one important tip when you create your background. You have to make a very watered mixture of your paint. So I'll be using here a cerulean blue and white, titanium white. So when we mix this, we first get the white, mix it thoroughly with our water before you introduce your blue, because if you introduce the blue first, it's difficult to adjust the value of your color if a darker color is first mixed. So it is also very essential that you have to mix the white first so that you can gradually adjust the intensity of the color that you want to mix, just like this cerulean blue. So just a very light mix for the background prior to painting your tree. So most of the time, my advice to beginning painters is you first mix or paint the background color before trying to paint the foreground or your main subjects in your painting. Okay, if you notice, I used some sort of a hard bristle brush because bristle brushes are more efficient in painting fast strokes, because we can just easily rub the surface, unlike the softer brushes wherein the spreading of color is not very fast. So I also used here a porcelain mixing plate where we mix our colors. So porcelain plates are good for mixing acrylic paints because you can just wash them easily with soap and water or just plain water. So we allow our background to dry a bit because some of the branches have been overpainted with blue. So the reason why we put the blue first in our background is to remove the white of the canvas so that we can properly contrast later on the different shades of colors once we try to mask our light and shadows. After our background has been painted and while still waiting for our background to dry, I'm now mixing here a brown and ultramarine blue mixture. Still a very watery mixture for our tree. So a little bit of brown and a little bit of ultramarine blue. So the color that we will be producing here is some sort of a dark gray, a watery dark gray, just to identify and locate the dark areas of our tree. Okay, so our mixture should only be watery since this is the first layer of color that we're going to apply on our tree. So there will be more subsequent thicker colors that will follow after this. So after mixing our brown, we'll first try to determine if it's already okay for us to apply the paint. So the paint on our canvas is still a little bit wet, so we'll just wait for it to dry in a few minutes. Now we have been working on the different shading of the tree, and you notice that it's actually very consuming to make the branches because we have to illustrate the smaller branches. And as much as possible when you do your brush work, you have to remember that as the branches of the tree goes to the tip, the sizes of the branches become smaller. So I'm also using a small pointed brush for this. So when I painted the background, I used a bristle brush, but when I started painting the tree, I used a smaller pointed brush, which is number 3, a small pointed round brush. So the next step that we're going to do after trying to make all the initial painting of the branches is to color the background vegetation along the horizon. After painting the tree and its branches in its initial layer, we're going now to paint the background vegetation along the horizon. So I'm using here phthalo green for the background vegetation. After we have already painted the background vegetation, and I already included painting the foreground vegetation and also a little bit of the dark area below the tree, the next step is to further darken the shadows of our branches, because after this we'll now paint the leaves of the tree using used towel for the texture. So you can use your used towel or terry cloth as a painting tool for making trees. So later on you will see how the technique is being done. I'm now starting to dab color on the background using a used towel, okay, to create the dark texture at the back. So this will serve as the backdrop. So what you will do is to wet the towel, then you smudge it on top of your green color, and you dab it lightly on the background to suggest vegetation. So be sure that when you apply it, it should appear natural, like it is trying to portray leaves in the background. So you concentrate your dabbing of this towel somewhere in the middle of your tree, because the leaves on the outer branches are a little bit lighter because they are more exposed to the sun. So you have to remember that leaves in the shaded area are a little bit darker than the leaves that are facing the sun or outside the canopy. Okay, we will now put the holes in the tree where the sun is trying to get into the canopy. So this will be represented by a mixture of white and blue paint. So we will try to put areas where streams of light is entering the canopy. Okay, we use here a relatively thick mixture of white and blue paint to illustrate this lighting holes in the canopy. So even when the paint is still wet, you can now put this light holes peeping through the branches. Okay, we have already applied other shades of green color to our background and also in our foreground. I already included areas where sunlight comes in through the branches and as well as at the bottom of the tree. So the final stage that we're going to do is to now put the other parts of the tree, the canopy, the leaves on the canopy. So to be able to properly provide textural effect of leaves and other parts of the branch, we may use both plastic and metal palette knives to apply our paint to our painting. And as always, learn how to stop. So I'm now finished with this painting. And again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button or leave a comment below if you have any questions. See you next time. Bye-bye!